Okay, so today we're going to be finding percents on Khan Academy. You're going to see 3 different problems on the topics that have been assigned to you. This is going to be an example of the first type of problem that you're going to see. So the first type of problem you're going to see, what is 72% of 200? When dealing with math, when you see the word of, it means to what, Darius? Multiply. So this particular problem here, we're trying to determine if you have the number 200, you want to find out what 72% of that number would be. Now, there's multiple different ways that you can solve this. I like to set my problems like this up using a proportion. We're going to talk about proportions a little bit more next week, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys to it now, just like I said, because to me, it's easier using a proportion to solve these types of problems. Do you guys know what a proportion is?
Yes.
What? Kinda. They look similar to fractions. What's a proportion's made up of 2 ratios. What are ratios?
Oh, like it's like a number of points.
An example of a ratio: boys to girls.
Wait.
Staff to student. Cats to dogs. Blonde hair to dark hair. Blue eyes to brown eyes. It's a comparison of 2 things. Okay. Right, so it's a comparison of 2 things. So a proportion are basically 2 equal ratios. So the proportion that I use to solve this is going to be percent. And percent is always over what number? What do we always hope to earn with the percent? 100 equals the word is over the word of. So I use this proportion here to solve my percent problems when dealing with Khan, just because, like I said, it's easier for me to solve it this way. So I would write that at the top of your paper or somewhere for the first couple of examples. We're going to use a different proportion for word problems, but when you're trying to find the percent of a number or what a number equals out to, this is what you'll use. Now, all I'm going to do is look at my problem, what is 72% of 200, and plug those into my proportion. So my proportion, I'm using percent over 100. Do they give me the percent here? Yeah, what is it? Okay, so I'm going to plug in 72, and my percent's always over what number? 100. So I'm going to put in 72 over 100 equals, and now I need to do the second part of my proportion. Now, is stands for equal, and we'll write that down in just a second. Of means to multiply. It's asking what is 72%. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. We don't know what it is. The 72% goes in that spot, but then of 200. So what number is right next to the word of? 200. So is that going to go on the top or the bottom of my second proportion? The bottom. So what am I going to try to find here? What it is, what it's equal to. So here's where you can pick a variable. Remember, a variable is a letter that represents a number in math. I usually just defer to the variable x. So we set our proportion up. The next step, in order to solve, you're going to have to cross multiply and write an equation. It doesn't matter which way you cross multiply first. You can multiply 72 times 200 first. Or you can multiply 100 times x first. Does not matter. I always go top to bottom. So I'm going to take 72 times 200. So I'm going to put my equal sign. What's 72 times 200? What is it?
14,400.
14,400. Okay? Bless you. So that's my first part of cross multiplying. So I'm writing an equation. I'm going to put equals. Then I'm going to cross multiply with my next set of numbers. 100 times x. What's 100 times x? 100x. Now we have a one-step equation. Way back to first triad. We're going back to solving a one-step equation. When I solve equations, what's the first thing that I do? Draw my line, then what? Circle the variable. I need to get that variable x by itself. How do I do that? Divide each side by 100. On my right side, what am I able to bring down? X equals, on my line of equality, what's 14,400 divided by 100? 144. So that would be your answer. So what is 72% of 200? 144. So basically, this is your go-to proportion. All you have to determine is where you plug those numbers in, cross multiply, get a one-step equation, then solve. Okay, let's look at our next example problem here. So when you see the word is in math, or you hear it, for example, 5 plus 2 is, what's 5 plus 2 is? 7. What does that word is mean? Equal. So the word is means equals. Again, I keep using my proportion, percent over 100 equals is over of. So I'm going to use that proportion. And the next question is going to be, 4 is what percent of 5? So we have to determine what information do we know? What information do we have? So we have 4 is, right? And we have of 5. So where would I put that 4?
Top right.
Top right. Where would I put that 5? Bottom right. What goes in my bottom left? What will go in my bottom left every single time? 100. So the question is asking, what's the percent? So we're trying to find the percent when 4 is what percent of 5? So we're trying to find the percent here. So I'm going to use P as my variable for P for percent. All right, from here I cross multiply. Again, it doesn't matter which direction you go. If you go top to bottom or bottom to top first, I just like to go, excuse me, top to bottom. So I'm going to take P times 5. What's P times 5?
P5.
What should you always put first, though?
5P.
Yeah, always put your number, then your variable. Then I'm going to put my equal sign. Then I cross multiply 100 times 4. What's 100 times 4?
100.
And what am I going to solve now?
Joint line.
What type of equation?
Two-step equation.
2.
Oh.
1. So draw my line, circle my variable. How do I get the P by itself? Divide by 5. What's that called when you do the opposite of what it's asking you to do? Inverse operation. Good. Bring down my variable P. What's 400 divided by 5?
80.
80. Now, what did we find here?
We find
The percent. So what should be behind that number 80? A percent sign. So P equals 80%. Okay. Let's go down to percent word problems, my favorite. Okay, so we're going to fill out some things here. So we're going to fill in the blank. So percent word problems on Khan Academy. The following blank can be used to solve percent word problems. What did we use for the first 2 examples to solve? What was that? The word is and of. What did we put that into? A proportion. So the following proportion can be used to solve percent word problems. The first part of my proportion is going to be the exact same as what I used above. So we're going to do percent. So we're going to do percent over 100. The second part of it, you're going to use part of the number. So if they only give you part of the number, that will be the top. Or if they give you the whole part of the number or the total number, that will go on the bottom. Thank you. Okay? So, when you go to solve a proportion, what do we have to do? So after we created our proportion up above, what did we do next? Cross multiply. Yeah. So to solve, you're going to cross multiply. That'll create an equation, get the variable by itself and solve. So basically, we're doing the same steps as what we did up above. We're just using a different proportion to solve. All right, let's look at example number 1. So, Sophie Ruth is eating a 50-gram chocolate bar, which contains 30% of cocoa. I like to underline, when I do word problems, I like to underline the information given to me. So she's eating a 50-gram chocolate bar. It contains 30% cocoa. It's wanting to know how many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar. Okay? So it's wanting to know how many grams of cocoa are in that chocolate bar. What's the first part of my proportion? Percent over 100. Does it tell me the percent here? Yeah. So what's my percent? So I'm going to put 30 over 100 equals okay. The next part is asking how many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar. So I have this other number up here, 50-gram chocolate bar. Is the 50-gram chocolate bar going to be the total weight of the chocolate bar or just part of the weight? Think about it. Anybody have a candy bar? Get it out. I'm going to eat it. Okay, so I have this granola bar, right? It's 50 grams. 30% of this granola bar is made up of cocoa, made up of chocolate, right? How many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar? This chocolate bar right here is 50 grams. 30% cocoa. It's wanting to know how many grams of cocoa are in here. So is 50 grams the total weight of my chocolate bar? Yes. So 50 grams is the total weight. So 50 grams is the total weight. Is that going to be my top number or my bottom number? Bottom. So cocoa is only part of the bar. So we're trying to figure out how much cocoa is in that total amount of grams. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to put the variable C for cocoa there. You can use X, you can use Y, you can use D, whatever you choose to use. Now that we have our proportion, cross multiply. So what's 30 times 50? 1,500 or 1,500 equals, then 100 times C, 100C. And then we solve. We get the variable by itself. How do I get the variable by itself? Divide by 100. So then C equals what? 15. So 15 grams. So how much cocoa makes up that 50-gram of chocolate bar? How many grams of cocoa is in there? 15. So if that chocolate bar is 50 grams and 15 of it is cocoa, then the rest of it's made up of something else. What's the something else? How many grams is the something else? This is just a bonus question. So if the chocolate bar is 50 grams, 15 of that 50 grams is cocoa, what's the remaining number of miscellaneous ingredients? Remind me at the end of class. Good, 45. All you have to 35. All you had to do is take 50 minus 15. All right, let's look at the next one here. Example number 2. This is going to give you some information you don't need. Sometimes in word problems, they give us too much information. You have to determine what information is important and what information you don't need. So we have a coin that contains 1.25 grams of nickel and 3.75 grams of copper for a total weight of 5 grams. Total weight of 5 grams. What percent of the metal in the coin is copper? So what are we trying to determine? What's it asking us to find? The percent. So my variable is going to go in my in my percent spot in my proportion. So where would I place that variable if we're trying to find the percent? Top left. What goes under my percent? Every single time? 100. So now we come to the other side. Remember, the other part of my proportion is part of the number and the whole total number. What's the whole total number here? 5, yeah. So that's going to go with my bottom right. Now, this is where you're going to have to determine what information you need and which information you don't need. We're trying to find the percentage of the metal in the coin of copper. So which number am I going to use? Am I going to use the number that goes with nickel or the number that goes with copper? Copper. So what's the number that goes with copper? All right. So my next step, cross multiply. What's x times 5? 5x. 100 times 3.75. And then we solve. So circle our variable, draw a line. 5 times x, the inverse operation of 5 times x would be divide. So I'm going to divide each side by 5. The 5's cancel. Bring down my x. What's 375 divided by 5?
75.
So, what was the question it asked me again? What percent of the metal in the coin is copper? 75 what? Percent. There's your answer. What do you guys think? All right, last one, and then I'm going to let you do some Khan Academy practice. Woo-hoo. Good news is it's 9:04. We should be done. Hopefully you can get through at least one of the topics. Example number 3. Samuel has a collection of toy cars. So he has a whole collection of toy cars. His favorite out of the whole collection of the cars are the 27 red ones, which make up 60% of his collection. How many toy cars does Samuel have? So what number are we trying to find out here? What are we trying to find out? The total amount of cars he has. So my first part of my proportion is percent over 100. So what's the percent they give me? So I'm going to put 60 over 100 equals, what's part of the collection? 27. And we're trying to find the total amount of cars. All right, cross multiply. What's 27 times 100?
47.
Or 2,700? Good. How do I get the variable c by itself? What's 2,700 divided by 60?
45.
So how many total cars does he have in his collection?
45.
45 cars. How many red cars does he have? How many red cars does he have? 27 makes up what percent of his total collection? 27 cars make up what percent of his collection? 60. So if he has 45 cars and 27 of them are red, how many cars does he have that are not red? So, if he has 45 cars, and out of those 45 cars, 27 are red, how many of them are a different color?
What was your question?
I heard somebody say the answer. 18. Yep. Darius, remind me at the end of the hour. All right, that's where we're going to stop.